ムストーリー幻みたいな思考はメリーゴーラン回ってくループループ Where am I going 過去だらけの世界で鍵かけてもすぐに見透かされる正直言って知らいたよねやり過ごすループループ Where am I going 過去だらけの世界でどうせなって諦めてそれももうなんか聞いたな星のない夜の空月だけが私を見てる充電いつもなくてめんどくさいなカバンを放り投げて誰か連れ出してループループ Where am I going 時間だけリアルで無理になって逃げ出してそれももうなんか聞いたなオレンジ色のライト月だけが私を見てる画面の中に私がいるあられはいつだって行ける怖くなって立ち止まってでもその先を見たい誰の声も聞こえない月だけが私を見てる私を見てる Where am I going
Good evening and welcome back to Keskalokil, my dwarven fortress somewhere near the sea and not under it for quite some time now. Where last session, well, I apparently was attempting to drain the river and also mucking around with my swimming training system. It appears that I managed to almost exactly fill the swimming pool to a depth of 5/7. We appear to have 2 squares that are at 6/7. I think that'll work fine. And as for the draining of the river, we had found, after the attempts at smoothing and fortifying the walls off the edge of the map had failed yet again. I still don't understand what's going on there. I dug all the way down here and eventually managed to connect up to to at least observe the very edge of the caverns over here, and the caverns extend here to directly underneath where I'm expecting to drain the river. So I think I can just, albeit with a 77Z level vertical shaft, drop the river into the caverns, and I'm sure that will be fine. In fact, we know that at that point the caverns go off the edge of the map, so all that will do is cause some flooding there, and like there's a ridge here, so it won't even flood this bit of the caverns. It will just, only that section's higher anyway. This is indeed the lowest part of the caverns we know about. The water will just pour into here and pour straight off this edge of the map, through a natural connection off the edge of the map rather than my faking one. So that seems perfectly sensible. Now we just need to do an awful lot more digging. As I hinted in the YouTube title of the stream, I would also quite like to deal with some of my unhappy dwarves, because we've got 14 at maximum unhappiness, and that seems rather more than I'd like. So in particular, looking at this one, she has some of the things she's complaining about are that her clothes are old, and she is actually wearing 4 items of extremely worn clothes, and they're mostly the kinds of clothes we haven't been making, so I think I might want to start adding more of those. She has, on the other hand, I think, been quite cheered by putting on that siltstone crown, that decorated siltstone crown indeed. I mean, that does look like a pretty good crown, to be fair. Maybe made of siltstone, which isn't that exciting, but it is encrusted with masterfully worked square brilliant cut jades, encircled with bands of finely crafted opal bloodstone cabochons and well-crafted loon bone. It's adorned with hanging rings of pig bone. On the item is an exceptionally designed image of Speechless Mountains, the dwarf, and a capybara man in rock crystal. Speechless Mountains is embracing the capybara man. So yes, okay, I could. It's a particularly extravagantly decorated crown, which a very unhappy teenager in our fortress is wearing. So yes. So, yes, so one thing I should do is set up some jobs to make more clothes, because she is apparently fed up with the state, quite reasonably fed up with the state of her cloak, mittens and hood. And we have jobs to make some of those, I think. So we have jobs that are currently working on improving our stocks of cloaks and hoods, but not mittens. So I think we should. I'm going to start putting work orders primarily on the correct workshops, merely so that they're easier to find. So let's add a work order for making leather mittens. And our standard approach for things that come in pairs is if there are fewer than 40 of them, and we really don't have 40 mittens, 20 pairs of mittens in stock. So this way we might get some leather mittens to help equip our dwarves with less disintegrating mittens. I somehow feel it's most sensible to have the most outer clothes to be being made of leather. Though, and most dwarves wear both gloves and mittens. I feel that, like, in warm parts of the world, maybe they should wear fewer clothes, but I'm not sure they do. You mostly need to do things. Possibly you need to be put into the military. Though you do also want a cloak, but like we'll fix that in a bit. Oh, I did notice actually that the 15-year-old was also said, where was it? Content after sleeping in a great bedroom, and it feels like to me like we could do better than a great bedroom. Surely we can get her to be feeling content, or indeed better than that, after sleeping in a bedroom like a personal palace. So we should find her bedroom and improve it. Yes, she only has quarters. And is it that one? I did look this up. Yes, Geshud Avosastis. Have we got a cabinet we could give her? What does she like by way of materials? Personality. Preferences. She likes siltstone, which is probably why she's wearing a siltstone crown. So, Billen. Well, we've got plenty of Billen. Fortification agate, not so sure about. Codtooth, what? I think that... Yes, yes. Pangolin meat and parsnip wine. Or indeed any other bits of a pangolin, possibly.
That's only slightly weird.
I mean, liking siltstone and Billen makes my life quite easy, at least. Like, I think all the walls of her bedroom are made of siltstone, aren't they? Yes. And the floor. So that's a good start, but she could do with a, like, cabinet in there. Right, we have no cabinets at all. Well, let's make a Billen cabinet then. Make two of them just on general principles. We might need it later. And that should allow us to cheer her up at least a little bit. She's already dumped one worn out alpaca wool hood here. Right, let's have another look at some other unhappy dwarves and see if... We've looked at the most unhappy dwarf, which is our manager, and I think they might want to be put into the military. So, Kib Sanra Baban is only 5 years old, already has 2 pets. Her bedroom is a bit better. Like, she doesn't look like there's a lot wrong. Like, most of the things she's unhappy about are either memories or about the fact that she's unhappy. Like, she's unhappy because she couldn't find someone to yell at about the fact that she was unhappy. And she was regretful after having started a fist fight, which she did because she was unhappy. And all her clothes are lovely too. So, yeah. Well, at least Geshud Avosastis looks like she might be cheerable, even if the others aren't. We do seem to have, that's another having a drink without using a goblet, cup or mug thing. Are we a bit short on them?
You accidentally sell them to the elves.
We've got 31. Yeah, that doesn't feel like enough for a fortress of 150 people. I mean, it might be, but I don't entirely trust it. Let's like make another 70. That might be extravagant, but I feel that there's no excuse for having too few goblets, cups and mugs until we run out of Billen. But then we've got plenty of tetrahedrite available. Like, I've got vast tetrahedrite deposits I simply haven't started digging out yet. There's one, for instance. Actually, we can totally mine through there. We don't actually, I mean, it'll be damp, so we have to do it by hand, but like we want to wall it back off again because this is a mine and not a drain. But it would be fine to go through there. Mine it out, wall it off. Maybe we should... I mean, those are really drains as well. Let's not go across the thing yet. I think I need to think a bit more about how we do this. Actually, there's a lignite seam up there, isn't there? Oh, we have... No, we haven't yet got a way across there. Let's build a bit of floor. That we can use to connect that up. And that way we can get that out. Oh, and there is that's some bituminous coal just there as well. Oh, there's some bituminous coal on the south side. Well, we should just auto-mine that. Find out where it connects to. And also go across there, and then we can start auto-mining that section. Right. And we should think about how we're going to do this. So currently, well, we have a slightly unfortunate flooding situation there, which is particularly unfortunate because we actually planned to do the digging from this level, or at least we would if we hadn't already flooded it. I mean, that staircase is now connected to, well, I mean, to a sump which weirdly doesn't work properly, but also to the caverns. So we could cut into the staircase and then drain, and then that would drain. If we like dug through that wall there, all this water would come cascading down the staircase probably to the slight alarm of the poor dwarf who just dug through the wall. But it probably wouldn't drown them. Yeah, let's do that, and that will get that water out of the way. And then it won't be so dangerous. Actually, if we do it diagonally, then the water will drain out slowly, and that'll be much safer. Actually, let's make that a high priority mining task, because I want to watch that happening. Right, so let's have another look at the next person in our list of unhappy dwarves. It's not going very well. We've only found one who, like, it's obvious how to fix. And that's because, well, she's a teenager and she wants new clothes.
Right, there you go, Ben. I've sent you an email listing places in the GTK drawing code where I would consider looking with great suspicion.
Right, thank you. So, again, like, it all looks fairly good. She doesn't like going out in the sunshine, but I refuse to... Ooh, so I'm annoyed at the lack of dining tables. Are we actually short of dining tables? Should we do something about that? It's kind of difficult because someone went and made this a very cramped fortress. I mean, we are trying to reduce the population, so maybe the dining tables will be less of a problem later. Right, someone is coming to dig that out. It'll be one of these two. Since this one is doing digging down here already, it's probably the other one. But I'm just going to wait for this bit of digging to finish, and then we'll put the walls back, ask to put in some walls around the area we've just removed all of the bituminous coal from. So that's going to want walling in. And what do we need? We need that one to be able to get out downwards. So we could do, probably the cheapest actually would just be to put the wall down there, wouldn't it? Like, we don't need the drain passage to be particularly narrow. Right, so who's the other person doing some mining? Yes, you're going to be walking all the way from the main fortress right to the south edge of the map. Might take a little while, but we can look around while we're here, spot other things that might want attention. It appears to be fruit season. The dwarves are, lots of dwarves hauling back fruit from the orchards. Well, woodland, in which we've the limits of our cultivation is felling those trees that don't give us fruit or nuts. So my hope is that this will allow the water out reasonably slowly, and thus this dwarf will not immediately get drowned. Yes, that looks good. Like, actually, it's not allowing it out very slowly, but slowly enough that it hasn't drowned anyone. That's nice. It's going to take a little while for it to get all the way down to here. But at some point the water will land here, fill up that tiny little sump, which I think we accept accidentally flooding, and then pour down into the caverns. And I think actually I could have gone a bit deeper and made that corridor a little bit shorter, but it'll do. I'm sure the water will be down here eventually. Okay, apparently it does. Oh, it'll come down here a lot faster if I unpause the game. Yes, that will be better. Have you banned the export of bins again? No. No, it's someone else who bans the export of bins. Meanwhile, let's make one copper pick and do bins. Kind of like making the bins out of copper as well. It's not very sensible, but it does in theory mean I can melt them down if I can't sell them. None of those are very confusing. Oh yes, I think our soap making is proceeding reasonably well. There's the water. In that we now have, under liquid, I think we've reached the point of having a reasonable amount of rock nut oil. Why is that rock nut oil forbidden? Let's unforbid it, because either it's reachable or it's not. So we have a reasonable amount of rock nut oil, and fairly soon the work order to make that oil into soap will activate, if it hasn't already.
The soap order.
Yes. So make soap from oil is conditional on having 10 oil containing items, and I think we were at 8. So fairly soon we'll actually start making soap, and then our dwarves will be able to be cleaner. And now the water is coming down here at a fair rate and gushing down into the caverns, where it will pool here. And who knows, possibly flow somewhere off there. We can't tell, we can't see enough of the caverns to know quite where the water's going. But like flooding the caverns is standard practice for Keskalokil. Right, so that now will mean that we can, once this has finished draining, we can fairly safely start working in here again. So I think the plan is that I'm going to dig an upward ramp along that column through the bottom of the river, and in theory I think I can do that from below. So what I'm going to need is a lever connected to that bridge that we can use later to open it in order to drain the river. So we should decide, probably we want to put that river up in the main fortress. I don't think there's a particular reason to need to drain the river from nearby. Though that doesn't actually make connecting them up very much harder, because someone has to carry all of the mechanisms anyway. Short delay while we wait for autosave to finish. It is now autumn, which means that we should get another trade caravan. We also have some tribute, which we will inspect once it's been delivered. So let's build another lever in our kind of cluster of levers. Don't think we can build it out of siltstone blocks. Should make it exceptional because people will be actually around to see this thing. Oh yes, we should also put some dwarves in the dwarf washer, shouldn't we? Right, so to do that, we are going to want to empty all of the states other than the 5s. So first we want to pull any levers. Actually, yeah, no, first at the very least we're going to need to pull any levers that are currently on to the right, because we want them all to be to the left. And then so N1 and basically everything currently shows as occupied, doesn't it? Apart from N4. N1, N2 and N3 all need to be emptied. N1, N2 and N3 all need to be emptied. N4 is already empty. S2, 3, 4 need to be emptied. S2, S3, right, is going to need 2 extra pulls. Ditto S4. Right, so that should get everything other than the 5s into the right state. The 5s ideally want to be full. So let's also schedule pulling the 2 5 fill levers, but that one should wait until S5 empty has been pulled. Right. So enormous sequence of lever pullings in order to get that lot set up right. I mean, that like a proper signal box. So here what I think I want to do, other than sorting out that lever, is to dig thus a vertical slot downwards from here. And possibly, I think it's perfectly reasonable to do it as a staircase, and that will make it much easier. So let's start fair distance down in case I get it wrong. So let's do it. Switch into blueprint mode for now so that I can just paint something that's probably wrong. So I think it's going to look something like this. No, we're not going to try to go through the caverns. Let's for now stop one level above the caverns. So that we don't penetrate them unexpectedly. Maybe I shouldn't have bothered doing this as blueprints actually. And then we can connect it to that level where there's a perfectly good walkway to get to there. Indeed, that walkway is accessible already. But I think we want it not to be there yet. And we'll dig out that layer as part of the, after we've done the river penetration, and similarly thus we want that layer not to actually be dug yet, of course. Right, then we can just go blueprint standard. That was unnecessary because I haven't actually unpaused, so we could totally have done this in normal mode. Right, oh, and the priority for that's wrong. Oh, it's too late now, I have to sleep in the mud. Don't mind doing this with rather high priority. Right, let's allow that to happen and see what happens. We have some random cobaltite up here. That's nice.
That's not weapons derived from cobalts.
No, that is the kind that you get cobalt from, which is not very useful because dwarves haven't worked out how to smelt cobalt yet. They haven't even worked out how to make blue glass from it. Oh.
I assume they know how to make glass at all.
Yes, yes. We have a vile force of darkness has arrived seeking a parley.
Raw green glass seems to me like a very common dwarven building, strange construction material.
Yes. Right. So far that's not many dwarves, but we'll do the usual thing of going out and speaking to them, partly because...
Gives you time to scramble the fighters.
Yes, precisely. It gives us time to get everyone in and assess their forces and so forth.
Remind your soldiers to put boots on.
Yes, yes.
Are you missing some important role like drill sergeant who will bellow boots at everybody until they've done it?
I'm not sure. I think possibly it's just important to get them to, like, I don't know, because if you give them an order to go somewhere, then surely they're going. Then they go there, and my experience is they do so without their boots. So I don't quite know how you get them to do a thing that isn't. That is just put your clothes on. Right. Well, we've summoned them all to the surface anyway, where they will be unwell because I should really get them training on the surface so that they don't get upset by sunshine. Oh, possibly I need not to actually have the mayor in the military. That might make the parley work not very well. What's the mayor's name?
No, this armour is purely ceremonial.
Yes. Erdim Tossisholid. Actually, I could have looked him up there and then found out. Who is currently in the waters of Twinkling because he can swim. Yeah, but I'm afraid I think it's actually more helpful if you're not. Right. So now the mayor, who is currently washing himself, might be able to, and probably bemoaning the lack of soap, might be able to go and join in the parley. I noticed they've arrived from a slightly non-standard direction. Yes. So they haven't brought beak dogs, which is like a bit of a pity from the...
The Duke has imposed a ban on certain exports, specifically whatever it is the goblins have asked for.
picks, apparently. Which we don't export. We build picks into our weapon traps, which then attack goblins who incautiously step on them. Oh dear. And a Tearsal Peregrine is getting into a fight with the dog. I can't help feeling the dog is likely to win.
What is a Tearsal Peregrine? Is that like a bird?
Yes. I think that's a female peregrine, as I vaguely recall. And dwarves suspended the construction of the lever. Where have we found damp stone? Oh yes, I suppose it will be damp around here, won't it? Okay, that was the wrong button. Oh, that's what? That. Out of blueprint mode. Why is that still saying removing? Oh, because I mean that one, which looks very similar. Must spam multiple. Oh, you're just making my life difficult. That. And then cancel that one because I don't want you to actually do the upper level of it. And now you've cancelled some others. Well, actually, we shouldn't do this upwards, downwards rather, because that carries with it a danger of flooding. Let's instead start by making the bottom end of this enormous quantity of staircases work properly. So we'll mark the layer above that as blueprint so that we don't go above there yet. Go down to there, then sort out the cavern penetration so we can get the water out, and then worry about actually doing the damp bits at the top. Right. Right, the mayor is attempting to attend the parley. Good. The military dwarves are kind of organising themselves. So roughly how many goblins do we have here? No, that's not the right button. 8 and a bit pages of 10. They've brought about 80 goblins. Our military number's like 40. But mostly we should be better armoured and better armed and possibly even better trained than them. Like, they've turned up mostly in copper, mostly. This one at least has iron boots. And of course, none of them can swim.
You've got 40 dwarves and a river, which isn't nothing.
And a lot of weapon traps up here in the delta. All these orange carrots are each equipped with 10 weapons. Right, there we go, making more rock nut paste.
Makes me imagine a dwarf having trodden on it and going, ow!
Ow!
It's like Lego, really.
Yeah.
Presumably that's all the way down here. Yes, we are finding lots of interesting substances down here. And mica. Mica is not very useful. I don't quite know what the rules are for what things it bothers announcing. Horn silver is probably useful, but that's a silver horn. I kind of suspect that orthoclase, for instance, is listed because it's bright yellow rather than because it's useful for anything. But like, let's at least get the gems out of this area because it's like tetrahedrite can get us silver anyway. So our mayor is meeting the oops, no, I want to actually click the diplomacy button. You're just trying to get another object. No, you can't have any of our stuff. Here is our mayor, who for some reason is wearing no clothes and carrying a pair of iron chain leggings. Possibly hasn't made the best impression on the goblins.
I mean, if you want to lull them into a false sense of...
Something, yes. How many of the rest of you are wearing only a pair of iron chain leggings? Now, you see, that looks a lot more sensible, though those boots really want recycling.
I'm reminded of that bit in Asterix where a Roman comes to the village and vital statistics is in the bath and doesn't want to get out of the bath, so they carry the bath out on the shield. And when vital statistics later goes to visit the Roman says, we must observe the Gauls' own customs. Deliberately does the same thing in return.
We've struck clear zircon, apparently. Yep, well, let's mine that as well. Right, it seems sensible to at least get out the valuable gems from down here. So, how do we then penetrate the caverns? Can we... Sorry, BNG. Can we can construct grates halfway up a staircase. I don't know if that makes the staircase then unusable. What we should do then is, like we did last time, put some grates nearby. Actually, let's construct the grates one floor above. I was hoping there'd be something we had 4 of, so we could get 4 matching grates, but no. Well, let's install 2 bauxite grates and 2 microcline grates. Oh, except we only have 1 microcline grate because I can't count the cinnabar. Right. Why is that not marked for mining? Because it's a different gem again. I think it might be, yes. Dear, it feels like a bad situation when someone cancels drink too depressed.
Yeah, that's not good.
Right, so how are the goblins doing? Are they thinking about attacking yet? Not really, they're still just milling around.
Did I miss the party?
Yes,
They asked for something, I'm thinking you said no.
yes. The mayor turned up wearing nothing and carrying a pair of
Yes, I remember that, I just didn't.
trousers.
Must have then been whittling about asterisks and missed the thing they actually asked for.
Yeah, they wanted one of our artifacts as usual.
And you said no.
Pay with your lives if you must. By drowning in our river, which we must not accidentally drain while you're doing this.
I was going to say, have you accidentally left the drawbridge in the wrong state?
No, check that. Yes, drawbridge up.
Oh, you've left the trap door there.
All the northern drains of the river are closed. I should resume building the lever that will eventually allow us to open the southern river drain. So the dwarves, have we finished clearing out this bit down here yet? Right, so that gem cluster has been mostly dug out. Apparently there's still 1 square waiting for it. That gem cluster has been dug out, and it'll be a while before we do much with that because someone needs to carry all the grates down there. Oh, look, here come 2 dwarves carrying grates. And some more dwarves carrying grates. At some point, the goblins are going to suddenly unleash a hail of crossbow bolts across the river.
But at the moment, they seem to be playing an elaborate peg solitaire.
Yes. Well, I mean, that would be an excellent way to reduce their numbers.
They're hoping that one incredibly potential dwarf will left that can jump all the way across the river. And this won't work very well until they turn up with a giraffe on a ski lift.
Oh, I think that thing saying we didn't have enough rock nuts to plant possibly means our threshold for the point at which we squash rock nuts is slightly wrong. Or that our rock nut farm is too big. Right. I think that's goblins moving. Mostly I think this means we want to ensure that this lot are reasonably far back from the river so they don't get distracted, and move this lot up to close to the river. Does involve getting through the livestock. Let's explicitly ask the non-amphibious dwarves to step back a bit. With the idea being that they will probably rush the goblins from behind once the goblins have been thinned out a bit. Of course, there is a danger that goblins might get good enough at jumping over rivers that they can make it across our 4 square river, at which point we'll have to widen the river. So they're leading with a with Astrog Fondled Terrors, who
And I am Magic Thighs.
who is a skilled spearman, and yes, will thus be the first one to meet the weapon traps at the delta. Right, we have this convenient thing that the goblins always arrive in the southeast corner, and the merchants always arrive at the south end of the map, and so in general they don't take the same route, and so we could just cover everything in weapon traps, like as long as we can keep making weapon traps. Someone got interrupted by a goblin spearman there, which is slightly alarming.
Maybe they just really weren't paying attention.
Yeah, I think they just spotted the goblin spearman in the way and decided not to try doing that just yet. Goblins are still being quite cautious, which is great, because like ideally they come at us one at a time.
Take them one by one in alphabetical order.
Oh, they're thinking about moving a bit faster now, which is also spreading them out a bit. There's a square there we could stick a weapon trap on, and we haven't yet. Oh, they've started launching things at us, and one of them just dropped dead by hitting a weapon trap.
Well, that's what it was meant to do, isn't it?
Yes.
Hey.
So far that's looking pretty good. The goblins are nicely spread out. Several of them have fallen in the river, several of them have died, and some of our dwarves are in the river but not drowning.
What happens after one of these battles with the weapon traps? Does someone go around refilling them?
So the picks and such like, the melee weapons, they don't need refilling, they'll just keep working unless they actually get bits of goblin stuck in them. If they have crossbows and such in them, then someone will come around and refill them with bolts. Quite possibly in the middle of the battle, but ideally at the end.
But we've not ever found a way of getting dwarves to understand the words common and sense, so we take all we can get.
Okay, you're in a martial trance in the river. I mean, that's fine, but we may have the slight problem that while none of the amphibious dwarves will drown by falling in the river, if they're in the river, they're not going to be have nearly such high combat effectiveness. And there's only 2 of them not in the river now.
Or maybe it'll just lure the goblins.
Okay, why is this dwarf airborne?
Because of it's there.
I think that is actually a jump, given that, they've attacked this goblin pikeman and, cloven asunder their upper body, which I think is pretty impressive. Destroyed another goblin's armour. So that doesn't seem to have done very well. And then leapt somewhere. Goblin hammerman jumping out of their path. Excellent, because there's a 50% chance that jump was into the river. Having a slightly unhappy encounter with the said goblin hammerman, who presumably thus didn't jump into the river. But iron gauntlets are pretty decent against copper swords. So far, this rather over enthusiastic recruit, which means they don't actually have any weapon skill. Novice fighter, dabbling axe dwarf, is flying through the air in the hope of beating up another goblin. Well, let's watch them for a bit. Slightly stunned on landing, that's not good.
That happens when you fly through the air without competence, possibly even with.
Right, yes, they've managed to twist their hip, it looks like, and have thus fallen over, but might be okay, and might, if nothing else, distract the goblins. There's only 2 goblins near them. Right, should we start rushing them from behind? We've somehow lost a baby. I clicked on that button. I want to see how she... Oh, yes. Yeah, that's not looking very good. I mean, your armour is protecting you pretty well. You're mostly just getting bruised. But I mean, there are actually a couple of dwarves heading towards you, so that looks pretty decent. You might be all right. I think we need now to send in the others from behind. So let's pull that lever and regroup that lot closer to the river. Yes, at least one dwarf has been killed. That's not good. But we've killed a lot of goblins, but definitely need to start splitting their forces now. Right, bridges down. You lot get first over to that, well away from the river on the other side. Be nice if you could like move a bit faster.
Ooh, executing a flanking manoeuvre.
That's the plan. If like any of the main force are still alive by the time this lot arrive. But if we can just distract the back half of the goblins, that's probably going to be good. Actually, quite some of them are still alive, though many of them are in the river, which is like a perfectly sane place for a swimming capable dwarf to be. I think we've lost Bomrexes and Kendok. Right. Want to get them not close to the river because they're not swimming capable dwarves. And then say kill all the goblins, or at least head up towards the goblins. Who will eventually notice them. We assume. Ah, yes, there we go. That seems to be working quite efficiently at the moment because the goblins' forces are weirdly split. Mostly our problem is that we don't really want this lot getting too close to the river. And as far as possible, we would like them to stay well away from it. Unfortunately, they can see the goblins. And the number of surviving amphibious dwarves is like 3 or so, looks like. We have 2 members of Splatter the Lyrical Seas of Turmoil, one of whom somehow manages to be drowning despite knowing how to swim, allegedly. And we have 2 members of the Waters of Twinkling, one of whom again appears to be drowning despite the fact that they should know how to swim. So, yes.
Oh, it's so stinks.
There seems to be a whole load of Maracos turned into a something. Tiger, donkey. House bird and sheds. Slightly odd.
Well, I suppose the remaining goblins are mostly ranged weapon, mostly have ranged weapons, so this might not go too badly. Oh dear, one of them's got all the way over there. Oh well, I think this lot are going to have to go through these goblins, hopefully without drowning very much. If a significant number of them fall into the dwarves fall into the river, then we may have to
I couldn't find Maracos turn into a bat, but I could find that.
start draining things.
That's that Cooperty I find.
Very much like
Depends like what the ratio of currently drowning goblins to currently drowning dwarves is. There's lots of goblins who are busy drowning. We do not want to drain the river right now, even if the occasional foolish dwarf falls in. Because it is utterly critical to us that the goblins drown. That's all going fairly well. I think our big problem is that there are a few goblins now over here, though. Why does that sometimes not work, that button? Okay, that looks like that goblin actually has enough. Yes, that goblin has 2 dwarves next to them, so they're not going to be a problem.
Assuming the 2 dwarves are actually like fighting, not just
Yeah, they are.
wandering past absentmindedly on their way to pick.
Fruit.
Yes.
Can't see any goblins have actually made it into the fortress.
I see a jeep, but that might be a goat.
Oh yes, who's that? That white. I don't think there are usually white military dwarves, and that's a gander. No, wrong thing. That one. Does look like we're down to like 3 goblins who are not currently drowning. Only 1 dwarf who is currently drowning, so I fear that they are going to have to be sacrificed to the greater good. 3 goblins who are not currently drowning. There, and I'm sure I spotted another one. There. All being mobbed by multiple dwarves. Right. I think we wait for those 3 to be killed and then send the military home and let the rest of the goblins drown. 1, I think, possibly 2, 3. Was that all of them dying? Oh, there's still 1 goblin hammerman somewhere. They are stunned, winded, pale, heavily bleeding. Right, that is...
And in ready to all ends.
Yes. And dead. Right, so now all of the invaders are drowning. So I think my ideal thing now is to tell the dwarves, stop attacking.
Cancel all martial trances.
Be very scared of those goblins and run away from them. Run away from them without leaping over the river, please.
2 instructions.
Oh, might struggle there.
That seems to be working. No one seems to be leaping into the river. Right, there's lots of drowning going on, but it's all goblins doing the drowning.
That's all right.
Like you see, they're walking sensibly around the river, even though they're still in nominally military mode. A couple of goblins still in the river. Yeah, I'm not surprised we've lost 1 or 2. Right, we must be fairly close to finishing this siege now. All right, yes.
It's still a siege as long as 1 person is on the premises.
1 person is here. 1 goblin is in the river, busy drowning, and is exasperated having been caught in the rain.
Whereby rain.
I don't know if that actually means having fallen in the river. Right, drowned. Oh, Tobald Orenfesh died. That's a pity. I recognise that name. We're now up to 20 seriously unhappy dwarves. Right. Time for some aftermath. I think I should actually change this. I should possibly change the settings for when objects get forbidden and unforbidden, but possibly we just now mark all of the rubbish out here as unforbidden. Because I don't usually forbid things on the surface. And then open all the river drains at this end, since we haven't built the other half yet. And just get all the stuff out. So we will pull the levers for East River Drain C, E, D, A, and B. So yes, some people will have been badly injured. Several people will have died. Okay, we don't have any useful combat logs for you. It's a pity because it's useful to know how people got hurt. Oh well. Right, the drainage has started. Since there are no people stuck in the river alive, actually let's just forbid all of the doors temporarily. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, is that some gems? Yes. Let's mine that pink tourmaline. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, all the doors are forbidden. So everything that gets washed down will now be locked away temporarily so that no one tries to fetch it and gets clobbered on the head by five more goblin corpses. Meanwhile, everyone is rushing out here to organise the surface goblin corpses. What are you doing in the river? You're fetching a goblin corpse, aren't you? Because it's not quite... The water level has dropped so far you think you can pull things out of the river yourself. Excuse me. Let's temporarily forbid everything in the river. Right, good. That dwarf has now left that goblin corpse there. Maybe. We can allow the objects to fall into the drains where we then extract them. And then we can turn more of their weapons into weapon traps. Are we getting like a pile of Tearsal Peregrine corpses turning up somewhere? No, it doesn't look like it. Masterpiece mittens. Well, no, for wearing on your hands to make them easier to draw. As they were described in the famous Littlest Cheesemaker comic. Inspect your mittens. These are your mittens. They make your hands easier to draw. And dwarves do mostly wear mittens. So like 3 more masterpiece mittens. The dwarves do seem to like going into this fairly dry square here. Possibly it's just like on the way somewhere. They don't realise that it might flood at any moment. Actually, if it's dry enough, we could finally get that damn skeleton out of the way. more generally, we should forbid all this stuff, and I'm confused by why so many people are in here. Apart from that skeleton, of course, because I actually want that removed, and it isn't washing away properly. There is a slight danger that dwarves are now going to... Yeah, look, you've managed to get yourself stuck somewhere, haven't you?
It's what they do.
Like, you're not properly dressed, you haven't got your armour on, and you've just been clouted with a willow log. I think that means you're in the drain somewhere. Yeah, there you are. Indeed, there appear to be at least 2 dwarves in that drain. Okay, we'll unlock the door so you can get out. And there's you stupid dwarves. We'll unlock those drains that have dwarves in them. At least for long enough for the dwarves to get out of the drains. There we go. Like, at least they have pleasure in the in being in a waterfall. The experience of being in a waterfall which is made mostly out of dead goblins, admittedly. Repeatedly didn't feel anything after seeing 53 zillion dead goblins.
It must be Thursday.
She felt bored dwelling upon attending a sermon. And like the door and the grate are really nice, and she enjoyed the waterfall. Right, we can lock that one again. That square no longer has any goblins, any dwarves in. Doesn't feel anything about after seeing a Logum spattered fountain's dead body. And he doesn't seem to feel very much at all, apart from being dejected at being caught in the rain. Right, let's forbid that door again. Dwarves are still wandering around in the river. Oh look, another dwarf has fallen down the drain. I mean, there aren't very many objects now to come down, so they mostly won't get clouted on the head. Mostly. That's the same one who got clouted on the head earlier.
Oh, it's scented.
Masterpiece goose egg roast. Of course, then if you get too many dwarves falling down the same drain, they start landing on top of one another and injuring one another like that. They do mostly seem to be falling down this one. There goes another. Stop falling down the same drains. Okay, you seem to have managed it without being seriously injured at least. So they're getting lots of cancellations for dangerous terrain. It's in the river, which is where you should not be. Oh, and now a caravan's arrived. Well, I think we've got most of the items out of the river. Let's start gradually closing the drains in the hope of that this will encourage the dwarves to get out of the river as well. Let's close drain A first. Oh, meanwhile, we should be teaching another batch of dwarves to swim because most of our dwarves who could swim have got killed. So we should now be in the state where all of these show empty, apart maybe from the 5s, which don't matter. Both of those show full. Oh no, one of them still doesn't. S5 needs to be filled. And that means we can now assign a minecart to NA, for instance. We could possibly use one of the less battered ones. But yes, but does it really matter how battered a minecart is? It probably doesn't. Okay, we've closed drain A and a goblin corpse has now landed straight on top of it. Oh well, we'll get that out in a moment once we've tidied things up a bit. That's just a captain of the guard standing up repeatedly. I mean, as long as we keep the water level reasonable down here, the dwarves in here may well just learn to swim. I don't know that the river is a very bad place to learn to swim. It's just a bit more dangerous than the swimming pool. But I hope that by that was a rather worrying look. That by gradually increasing the water level, we can encourage them to either get out or learn to swim. The ogre skeleton is apparently still too difficult to move. Right, meanwhile, how are things going down here? We've got all of those floor grates in position. Yes. So then I think what we can do is to turn this into an up-down staircase and then immediately put a floor grate over it. Can we do that? No, that's not what I meant. That's better. Right, yes, we're getting lots of dangerous terrain messages, which is probably good. Because that means that people are getting themselves out of the river again. Well, some of them are, as the water level gradually rises. So that one, we can now unforbid everything because there is no how do we get access to that to get objects out of it? Is it like some stupid route via the drains? How about we make that a bit easier? Wrong button.
Mute, mute. And indeed, hopefully, otter.
If we're going to do that, we probably then want to separate that off from places that are actually part of the drains, because we don't want too much connectivity between the drains and the fortress. But okay, goblin corpses are still moving around, so let's let that quite fast-moving goblin corpse move around. Oh dear, that's a bit worrying. We shouldn't really be finding new dead people now. Oh dear, right, yes, you got crushed by falling willow logs. So we do still have a bit of a problem that all this fast-moving water, dwarves are prone to diving into the river and then getting stuck and getting swept into places they should not. So, is anything still moving up there? Looks like it's all stabilised pretty much. Let's close the remaining drains then. There aren't any dwarves in the way at the moment. Where's drain D got to? There. Oh no, that dead goblins have just moved again. Have you decided to try to... Don't try to get items out of the river. Oh, you've fallen down the drain. I mean, you are enjoying the waterfall, apparently. And not currently getting clouted on the head with objects. Right, the drains are now all closed. So now all of these doors should be permitted. I think we should build a floor there. In order to seal that bit of drain off from the drains more generally, because it's now more part of the fortress like all the other catch pits are. Admittedly, I think that's another staircase down into the drainage system. Let's do the same thing there. Right. All of the catch pits are now available for dwarves to move things, so now everyone is going to be hauling objects all over the damn place. Meanwhile, a caravan has arrived and is probably terribly confused by what we're up to. I think we definitely don't have a ban on the export of bins now because the Duke died. We have...
And all of these bans are personal rather than
Yes.
ongoing state of law.
So we definitely can't have bans on bins. We only have the mayor now.
There's no bin ban.
So, well, let's dispose of the unwanted copper bins. And a leather armour bin. We don't sell leather or cloth or gems or bars, or that's probably a second-hand clothes bin, but it does appear, no, it's mostly new clothes in that one, isn't it? Okay, we'll keep that. So which is stockpile 27 then, I wonder? Don't think we can easily, well, no, don't worry about it. May of course be that we have almost nothing to sell, but that's fine. That's got trinkets in, we can sell trinkets. Possibly we should start like actually having a trinket stockpile. That's a worn clothes bin. That one's got some crowns in it. Cloth. No, we want to keep goblets. We have a shortage of them apparently. That's got at least one item we can't wear, namely a large shoe. Leather armour. Any worn socks in there? Doesn't look like it. I think we have done pretty well at getting rid of worn clothes, to be fair. That's got at least some worn clothes in it, so we'll bring that one up. That's a new clothes thing, number 33, so we'll ignore those. Those all appear to be undamaged. Yeah, we've not got that much to sell at the moment, it looks like. The armour bin is weirdly not in a stockpile. That's got some worn clothes in it. So there's that. That's got a quiver in it. We don't like quivers. That's a bin containing a single sock. Bin appears to be of no interest. I mean, like in theory, we might want to sell things that aren't contained in bins, but I don't think that's actually going to happen much. I think things in stockpile 33 are generally in good condition. And there are far too many of them. Well, I mean, there aren't, except that we have more socks than we know what to do with. So we are actually still short of clothes in general. Leather armour, we'll sell that. Worn clothes, we'll sell those. Wonder if we could somehow arrange for the materials of the bins to usefully match their contents. Right, yeah, there's not much we want to sell today. Unless they like dead goblins. So our desperate mitten production is still ongoing. Oh, I should see if we need more tombs, shouldn't I? Because quite a few dwarves died in that escapade. Yeah, it looks like all our tombs are in use. Right. We actually have a shortage of doors and probably of caskets too. So we should schedule making some more of them. We should also start digging another section of catacombs. And we carefully arranged that these catacombs could be reached through the... I mean, I suppose we could just widen them and make everything deeper, couldn't we? Or we could actually go through here, do another north-south tunnel there. Could I do this more cleverly, do you think? It'll do. I feel like it's perfectly reasonable for making tombs to be a bit tedious. Kind of honours the dead in a way. Maybe I should be doing this at a lower priority. Oh well. Oops. Right. Meanwhile, how is the stupid digging over here going? We haven't had a message saying we've penetrated the caverns yet, so... We have phenomenal numbers of store item jobs, most of them storing bits of goblins in the bits of goblin stockpile. Right, well, that's a couple of those. Oh yes, we wanted to give what's her face, if that is her name, Geshud Avuzastis. The manager's got a lot happier. A cabinet made of her favourite material. That way she can store her clothes in it. So I think, yes, once most of the goblins have been stockpiled, then we can work on filtering heads from the rest of them. Only one more item to be delivered to the thing, so we can have a quick look at what there is to trade. All right, yes, this dwarf is hauling the one remaining copper bin. Yeah, okay, if it's going to be laid out like this, we'll have to do something to discourage people from walking through the... yeah. Oh, that's the one I want, yes. Let's mark that section of the catacombs as low traffic to encourage people to take other routes. Here's our one remaining copper bin about to be delivered. So let us request that the broker come to the depot, please. What are you doing? Why are you walking that way while carrying something? Oh, are you going to collect more items to put in the bin? Right, yes, wow, that's really efficient. You're picking up vast quantities of clothing from all over the battlefield. Well done. This is a good thing to be doing. Have we got any doors yet? No. Right, what have we got to trade? Greetings from the outer lands. Your efforts are legend there. Yeah, but we haven't got much to sell you. And it's mostly old clothes. Maybe our old clothes, the legend. Well, we'll buy some dwarven wine because I don't think we can make that. We'll buy a steel helm. Kind of hoping you would have done like you used to do and brought us a vast quantity of wood, because like that's actually helpful. Barely brought anything at all. We don't need any food. We've got 12,000 food. Buy some thread because we don't make that. And like, we'll buy your cheese even though that's technically food. Obviously, we'll buy any books you brought with you. But yeah, this bin is mostly dull. It was one worn item of clothing in it. Not sure if this one even has that. That's leather armour, so we can just sell the whole bin. So is that. It's like we don't use leather armour. Why did I bring that one up here? Oh, it had quivers in, yes. Quivers are of no use to us. We're so close to the bottom of the list, I think I'm just going to sell them everything else that I intend to sell. Unless like there's something stupidly valuable. At least this makes it clear to them that this is a place worth bringing your trading stuff to. Also, quite like getting rid of worn clothes. We're going to have plenty more. Okay, I'm slightly confused by this scroll bar, which has not gone anywhere in a while. Like, the profit they're getting is extravagant now. Let's not sell them any crowns. We will sell them the last 3 bins, though. Right, have your extravagant profit. Right, so there's still a phenomenal number of items that need moving. Are you just not a very good carpenter or something? Yes, that's why the getting anything made here is taking forever. Do I, like, can I set up a, or have I already set up a team of carpenters? No, let's make one. Oh no, that was the right button. Oops, slightly too far back. Right, that will restrict carpentry to people who might actually be competent at it, which should, I think, speed things up. Right, somehow we've got like more forbidden items down there. Do I need to unforbid some more things? Yes, apparently I do. Right, that'll get even more things moved. Right, I think that's enough for tonight. Actually, let's just... Maybe it's not, because I want to see what's going on down here and not accidentally leave this in a state where it's pending piercing the cavern in disastrous fashion. Let's go for... proposing all of that, but making it all blueprints, so it won't happen yet. Right, then that won't spontaneously happen while we're not paying attention. Oops. That hasn't been removed yet. Right, so that's all for tonight. I am slightly awake. We will see you again, I expect, on Sunday evening. Till then, good night.